What's up, everyone? Aaron Schatz here, and it's time to start a brand new YouTube channel dedicated towards cryptography, cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and the like. And the first thing that we're going to do is basically set up a masternode for a currency that I actually invested in called SUCR. Actually, that's I'm sure it's called, but I'm going to call it SUCR because the ticker is SUCR. And if you're not aware of it, it's basically trying to be a total South American currency. Pretty interesting project. The dev is pretty cool. So check it out if you haven't. But let's get into this. So basically this masternode guide is going to be fairly specific to SUCR. However, most masternode currencies operate almost the same way. There's some nuances in things like Sentinel, if you actually need Sentinel or not. But generally they all follow the same approach. So once you actually know how to set up a masternode on one currency, most of the others are basically similar. So you can actually just watch this guide and pretty much get the information you need and then probably weed through it on any other currency you want. So before you start, what do you need? You need a Linux server. So we're going to be using Ubuntu 16.04 long-term, 64-bit. You need sudo or root access, and make sure the server has at least 1 gig of RAM. Theoretically, most of these things could work on less with a larger swap file, but really get 1 gig of RAM just for performance reasons. 2 gigs would be better, but cost is a little higher, so 1 gig will actually be fine. You need SSH access to the actual box, so that's pretty obvious. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do anything unless you have a local, and that would be weird. You shouldn't run the actual wallet and the masternode on the same computer. We'll go into that a little bit later, but basically it's security, so you shouldn't do that. One thing about the actual version that you use for Ubuntu, 16.04, is highly supported. While this does work on later versions, like I have the wallet compiled for 17.10, it is unsupported. Most people have no idea how to do it, and I just don't even recommend it on the server side, so just stick with 16.04. You'll also need the masternode setup guide. It's a PDF. I'll have a link in the description below. You will also need a working SUCR wallet on your personal computer. I'll be going through the command line version, but if you have the graphical portion, that's fine. All the stuff is in Tools Debugged. You can actually get to the command line interface through the actual graphical wallet also. So, one other thing that you can do is actually have the proper transaction of 1,000 SUCR. And if you don't, we'll go through that now. And if you have some basic knowledge of Linux command line tasks, that would be pretty damn helpful for this guide. So let's get to this thing. A little bit about the actual collateral transaction. That's what I mentioned about the 1,000 SUCR being sent to you. The transaction has to be exactly 1,000. It can't be more, it can't be less. So if you have an exchange and you're sending the actual amount to your own personal wallet, you have to make sure to take into account the fees that the exchange charges you. For instance, if the exchange is charging you 0.1 SUCR, you're going to send 1,000.1, and then the exchange will deduct that fee, and then you should have an exact 1,000 transaction in your wallet. You will need exactly 1,000 SUCR in one single transaction. And if you have under or over, and now you have a balance in your wallet, and you're like, oh crap, I screwed up, it's no big deal. What we're going to do right now is we're going to assume that you did make a mistake, so we're actually going to go through and basically send money to ourselves and make it that 1,000 magic number. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new wallet address. So let's go do that. So first you lie, and we're going to put get new address. Bam. So this address, and by the way, another thing you're going to want in addition to the documentation is a text editor. I have Kate open right here. So we're going to take this address. This is going to be the address that the masternode is going to send payments to. So put that in there and you label it receiving address. So now I'm going to show you that my balance, well, I'm not going to show you that. But now let's just say that you actually you made a mistake and you're going to need to actually send 1,000 to yourself, right? Let's just say that you by accident sent 999.9 and you actually need to put some more in your wallet and then send it to yourself. So let's just say you did that and now you're like, oh crap. Well, how do I fix that? Well, don't worry about it. It doesn't have to come from an exchange. It can actually come from your wallet itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to send to this address that we just made 1,000 exactly. So if you actually search on the internet for the Bitcoin Core command line arguments, you'll actually get the actual commands for it. So basically, the command is send to address, and I'm going to basically send this. So if I say this, send to address, and it's going to be this address right here. Paste. Amount 1,000. That's it. That's all you need to do. It will take the fee out, so don't worry about it. Enter. There is the transaction ID, the transaction hash. That is also something you want to have. Now, the transaction hash, so put that down in the actual documentation, transaction hash, and we can find that later. So remember, nothing I'm showing you right now is like secure. So I can actually look on the SUCR blockchain and I'll see this transaction hash. I can see that I sent this to myself on the blockchain. So again, I'm not showing you anything that's private. I will be showing you some interesting stuff about when we actually generate private keys, and that's when I'm going to actually block some stuff out, and I'll tell you that in a little bit. Now let's say you're waiting to see this actually occur in your wallet. There's a couple things you can do. You can go to a block explorer like I'm showing right here and put the transaction. Now the problem is that it's so new that you probably won't see it yet. You have to wait for the actual block to appear. But what you can actually also do is you can go and do list transactions, and you could see that I send this and then I received this. So it's in there, and then there's no confirmations yet. So as soon as we get, I think SUCR needs 15 confirmations, you can actually proceed. So basically just keep checking, and really you should wait for this to actually happen. So wait for the 15 to actually occur, then move on. So here is an interesting thing that actually happened. The blockchain got stuck at a certain block because there was a gigantic amount of transactions in that block. So if you were the miners or you were the Masternode payee on that one, congratulations. So if you wanted to actually see the confirmations on your transaction, let's just say you just sent the transaction. If you say SUCR CLI list transactions, you could see that my send and receive have 4 confirmations. So as soon as that gets to 15, we'll be able to continue. You could see that I have 13 confirmations on this transaction, and that's pretty much close enough. So what we're going to do now is basically going to generate a Masternode private key, and the command to do that is this. So you basically do SUCR CLI Masternode gen key, and when you run that command, it's going to generate a key for you. I'm not going to show you that because that is the private key that you're going to take. So when this command runs, you're going to take that and put it in your little text file as the Masternode private key. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back. Now we're ready to actually start the server portion of the guide. To actually get started, as I mentioned in the intro, you're going to need an Ubuntu server, 16.04 64-bit long-term support. You can use 14.04. Actually, you can use any version you really want to. Compiling this is not that hard. You may need to downgrade Clang if you're using a newer version, but I built the wallet just fine on 17.10 with an older version of Clang. So if you feel confident enough to compile stuff on your own, go for whatever version you want. But for this guide, we're going to be sticking with 16.04 64-bit. The server that I'm going to be using is 1 CPU, 1 gig of RAM, so we're actually going to have to create a swap file to give it a little bit more juice for when it actually compiles. So let's go ahead and SSH in. This is a brand new server, so I have to basically use root at to log in. Yep, sure, go ahead. Okay, I'll just put that in there. Now the first thing that we're going to do, the guide doesn't mention this, but what I don't like is anything running as root. I don't like that anything runs as root. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to create a user. Now you can create any username you want. I'm going to create my own name just because it's me. So of course I'm going to create my own name. So to Ubuntu, add user, and then your username. Now you can make this Masternode, you can make it SUCR, you can make it whatever you want. So from this point on, when I say user, I'm referring to the user that you created. So now I have created a user for myself. I am giving myself a password, and then I'm going to give it a full name because I rock. And it's all correct, right? Just go through that. Now the other important things that you want to do is, let's just say you're creating a user for yourself. You might want to go and give yourself sudo access. So you do vi sudo, and then basically you just look at how root is done and just put your user in there and be like all equals all, and then hit escape. Hit Control X. Nope, sorry. Hit What the hell's going on here? There it is, Control X. I don't know why that didn't work. That was weird. You want to save the buffer, just hit enter. You're good to go. You can actually edit the file directly, but whatever. I always like using VI anyway. So now that that's in there, we can actually log in using the actual user. I'm not going to go into changing the SSH port. If you want, you can go ahead and do that, but I'm not going to cover that in that guide. So I'm going to actually log out of this, and I'm going to log in using myself. And myself should have sudo access now. So if I do sudo s, I'm now in root. And now I don't need to be in root anymore. So now I'm on the actual box. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a new swap file. So we'll go into the var directory, cd var. This is directly from the, look at this, it's directly from the documentation. So the only difference is, since I'm not root, I'm going to put sudo touch and then swap.image. So we're basically creating an empty file called swap.img. Now we're going to fill that file up with basically 0. So dev0 is just a whole bunch of zeros, and we're just going to say it's going to the actual that one, swap.image. So autocomplete actually works in Linux Bash. Just hit tab and you'll actually get autocomplete. And then we're going to do the block size as 1024K, and we'll do 2,000 of them, which means 2 gigs. So now you got to let that run for a little bit. And you can see that it ran, made the file. Now we're going to tell it, okay, I want you to actually turn the swap on for that. Okay, it's now set up. And now we're actually going to turn it on. Swap.image. Oop. Forgot to come out the file, which we can do right now. 0600 swap.image. Nope, wrong directory. Bam. Probably should clean that up, but just follow the instructions if you're in root. If you're not, just hit sudo before most of these commands. So there you go. So basically what I've done up to this point was made a swap image, set the permissions correctly. Afterwards, turned on the swap. Now we're going to actually put the swap in fs tab, which is basically the file that says, oh, here's the mount points for when you start up. So we can actually just directly copy this right here, and I'm going to hit sudo that command, and the command has to go to blah 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 sudo echo mode. So it says permission denied because it's piping there. So might as well do this as root. So I'm going in as root and just doing this command now. So now I don't need sudo for this. Bam. Now it worked. So if we check free, you can see that there's a gigantic amount of swap now. So that's good. Let me get out of root now. Something tells me I have to clean up this guide a little bit better, but I can do that sometime later. So just keep following me. It's fine. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just keep going down this. So these sudo apt installs could all be done on one line, but since they're on multiple lines, yes, fine. We'll update first. And then basically all we're doing is installing the necessary build tools and support softwares and such. And here we go. Also, if you see that packages can be upgraded, I highly suggest after you're all done or during this process to actually do an upgrade. So after this is all done, I'll actually perform an upgrade to show you how it's done. So I'm just going down the list, highlighting this, waiting for this to be done, then doing the next one. So it's as simple as that. It's literally as simple as that. Next one's going. So basically this command says, hey apt, can you install this stuff? And I'm automatically saying yes. That's what these commands are saying. Okay, next one. Okay. Great. Next one. Okay. This one, I'm going to explain this. But so basically, we're going to add the Bitcoin PPA, which basically is a not standard. Standard is the wrong word. It's a non-canonical, the company that makes Ubuntu, repository. But you need that to actually get some support library. So we're going to add the PPA, and then we're going to hit enter saying, yes, we want the PPA. And then we're going to have to do an apt-get update again. By the way, apt and apt-get are literally the same command now. Apt-get was the older one. People just shortened it to apt. You can use apt or apt-get, it's fine. So we just updated it so we can grab the actual packages. So now we're just going to install BerkeleyDB, Dev, and BerkeleyDB++ 4.8, which is what almost everything that uses Bitcoin Core uses. You can use a newer version, but it won't be backwards compatible. The next thing we're going to install is Git, and watch this. Since there's no -y, it's going to ask me, do you want to continue? Yes, you want to continue. So I'm giving you a little primer on how to actually do some Linux commands. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go into our users directory. So the little tilde actually gets you into users directory. So what I want to do is I'm going to make a directory called Masternode. And I'm going to go into that directory. And then I'm going to create one called SUCR. And then I'm going to go into that directory. So now, I actually didn't need to do that because when I actually pull Git, it'll actually make its own. So let's go back. So we're going to do remove SUCR. And of course you need an R in front of it. There you go. So it's gone. So now we're just going to do git clone. Whoop. Not that command. We're going to do this command. Now we're cloning the entire SUCR core into our computer on the server right here. So if I look, you'll see SUCR core. So if we go into there, you'll see it's all there. So now I'm not going to install Joe, because Joe is basically a text editor. You can use VI just fine. So don't worry about installing Joe. If you want to, great. If not, don't worry about it. So I went into there. I did cd SUCR core, as you could see. And now this basically is saying anything that is a shell script, make it executable. But pretty sure they already are. So I think it's fine. And then we're just going to run autogen.sh. So autogen.sh is the generation file to get the build started. So we'll let that go. Soon you're going to want to make a sandwich, because this is when you're going to start walking away. The configure is not that, the autogen is not that bad, the configure is not that bad, the make is going to take a while. Okay, so that's done, and now we're going to do configure without GUI. Even if you didn't put that in, I don't think it would make a GUI anyway. Because if you're, I'll say, so basically, we'll just hit this. So while this is going, just let it go. Here's where some people run into problems. Sometimes it's going to say, oh, I'm expecting this, and it's not there. You probably just didn't do one of these up here correctly. So that's the most common thing. Or you didn't do this. Usually when configure complains, it's because you didn't install something it needs. So as you can see, it looks like it's going just fine. And again, this was a brand new Ubuntu 16.04 install, so it's not like anything is special with it. I literally went through all the commands with you guys watching. So now we're going to hit make, and this is where you're going to take a sandwich break. Now, walk away. Walk away. I will see you in a little bit, because this is going to take some time. So just let it build until you get back to the prompt. And that's it. We'll be right back. You might see stuff like this happening in the make. These are just warnings, nothing to worry about. If something fails, that's something to worry about. But if you follow this guide and basically just did all these commands, you should be fine. So we'll come back when this is all done. When the build is all done, it should look exactly like this. You could see no errors, no nothing. And if we see what right here, if we go into the actual source directory and we do an ls, which is a list, you can see everything got made. So basically now we're going to continue following this guide. So I did this command already. So these next commands, so strip basically takes out all the symbols and stuff from the actual binaries that you made. So we'll just do that, and then we'll do the CLI, and then we'll do the TX. So basically, you didn't have to do, strip is not really required, it just makes the files a little nicer. So now that that's done, we are going to now do these commands. So these commands are basically saying, can you move this, or can you copy this to an actual path that the entire system uses by default, so I don't have to keep going in this specific directory. So what we're doing right now is saying, okay, copy sucrd to user bin. After you put in your password for sudo, you can now continue doing that. So copy that, boom, and we'll do this one, boom, that's good. And now you could do this next part from anywhere. So we'll get out of this directory, but you can still follow the actual thing. So we're just going to do sucrd daemon. So basically what we're just saying is that, hey sucker wallet, can you please start in the background and start getting the actual blockchain going? And that's what this is. See what this says? Then wait for a full sync, could take 15 minutes. So what you can do is you can actually check this command right now. Wait for it to connect. Come on. That's interesting. So let's just see something. So if you want to see if it's running, let's see here. It's running. So what I did, this PS AUX pipe grep sucrd basically says, hey, can you actually show me all the processes that I'm running with sucrd in them? And that's what it did. So there we go. So now you see that it just took a little while to warm up. So you can see that the error code is -10 and it says Sucker Core is downloading blocks, which is actually different than the message in here. So there might have been some wallet improvements already. So basically now what you have to do is wait for this picture to basically turn into this picture. So you want this to actually get a block template. And I can actually show you what that looks like on the actual wallet, but I'll just wait until it actually fully syncs. So it's going to take a little bit to sync, so go grab another sandwich and then come back. As you can see, I'll run the command for you again. Now I've got the block template coming out, and you can see that the height is 26638. So if you're watching this video sometime in the future and the block height is like double that, well, there you go. So right now, that didn't take that long, but it could take a while depending on your internet connection, depending on how many nodes are around you. So just give it some time until you see something like this shown. So you see this picture turn into this picture, basically. Might not look exactly the same, but you get the gist right here. And look, this masternode is getting this block. Good for them. Now what we're going to do is we're going to stop the actual daemon from running, since we don't need it running anymore. So it's now stopped. So we're going into your user's SUCR core that you started. So so it's mine. So remember, I'm using the tilde, but I'll show you the actual path. So basically the actual path is home, your username, dot SUCR core, and then you're basically, so let's go into this directory. So let's look at this directory. ls again is a list. So now we're going to see what's in this directory. You could see that sucr.conf is there. So let's go modify it. So we're going to use vi sucr.conf, enter. Now it's blank. So what you're going to do is you see here. So what we're going to do is take this, copy it, and then you're going to hit insert first, and you see on the bottom there it says insert. So now you know you can actually paste some stuff in there. Then you paste this in there, and now you can actually move up and down and change anything. So the stuff I'm going to show you first is the RPC user. You can do whatever you want. Great. Just make sure it's, long, because this basically shares with the actual client. So like there's a client server on the actual box itself, and they use the RPC user and the RPC password. So just put whatever you want. And once I save this, don't worry, I'm going to change the RPC user and stuff. Not that it matters too much, because it's only going to allow connections from the box itself. So these are the other important bits. Listen server and daemon are 1, max extension is 256. Masternode 1, masternode private key. So remember that actual private key that you actually stashed in the text file? That's where you're going to want to put this right here. So this is going to turn into that private key. So you're going to put the private key into here. Then your external IP. You're basically going to have to know the external IP, because basically you logged into the box, right? So for instance, mine is this. And there's really no harm for me showing you this, because basically every master node gets listed on the network. So I can pull up every master node right now. So I'm going to go and save this, put the correct masternode private key in there, and then we'll continue. One thing I forgot to actually tell you is actually how to save this file from VI. So once you're actually done, you can see it says insert. If you hit escape, that goes away. Then you hit shift, the colon. Now the colon will come from the bottom, and then hit W, which means write, and then hit Q for quit. Now you could do those commands individually. So if I hit enter now, this will save that file and quit, right? But let's just say you made a mistake and you just wanted to just write the file. You can hit colon W and it writes the file. Then you can just hit colon Q and it quits, and you can quit without actually overwriting the file too. So that's that. Again, I'm going in here and creating my mask to put the proper private key in, and we'll be right back. Now we're back. So let's see what else we have to do. We basically have to start the daemon over again. So we're just going to do sucrd / daemon. It's not slash, dash daemon. Bam. So we started the daemon again. Now we have to go back onto the actual wallet computer, your personal computer, which I'm going to put right here so you can see that. So let's put that down there so you can see that. Okay. So now it's asking you to create a file, but you need something from the actual blockchain itself. Basically, you say like, okay, I need you to show me the masternode outputs, and I'm going to show you this because basically it's literally just a transaction ID. So if we do masternode outputs, whoops, sorry, you got to do SUCR CLI masternode outputs, you can see my 3 transactions for each of the master nodes that I have. And this is the latest one. And again, this is all public information, so you're not going to get anything from me. You could try as you might. The only thing you're going to find is you're going to pull this up in the blockchain, see that I sent something to myself. So that's what you get. So this is the actual important part. So this is the actual transaction ID, and this is the index that you need. So you're going to save both. You already have the transaction ID, but you also need the index, which is 1. We're using this one right here. Nope, actually it's, let me make sure which one it is. It's actually this one. Let me make sure, hold on. Yep, I wrote it down, it's this one. So this one, the hash is, the index is 1. So now we can actually go in and make the actual file. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show you the file because that's where you're actually going to put the private keys in there. So that's the way you actually tie things together. So all you have to do is just make the file look exactly like this. So I'll actually show you an example file. I'm going to show you an example of what the file looks like. So if you see this right here, this is an example of a masternode.conf file. You could find this file by basically, so in Linux, again in Windows you just follow these directions, but in Linux basically it's in your home directory .sucr core. And if you do a list there you see it, masternode.conf, and when you open it it'll look like this, or actually it'll be blank. So what you can do is you can actually just copy this example line right here, so your file will basically look something like that. And basically it follows, so I'll just go through the file itself. You basically give the masternode an alias, like I called mine MN1, MN2, MN3, then the same IP address, which is, that's the wrong one, so let's go over here, get my IP address. It is this. Put the same IP address, then you put port 9336, so you got the IP address, colon, the port, then you put your masternode's private key that you saved, then you put the actual collateral transaction hash, and then the actual index of that transaction hash. And then you save this file, and then we'll move on. So let me go do that, put the real private key in, and then we'll come right back. Now that you actually hopefully correctly put the stuff in the masternode.conf file, and the location that you put it in on Windows is right here, see whatever blah blah blah. On Windows you can see it right here. On Linux it's really easy, it's your home directory and then .sucr core, you can see it right there, again list, boom, right there. So now we're going to restart our wallet. So I have to go back into the where I put the actual binaries, and I'm basically going to shut down the actual SUCR CLI stop. So if you're on Windows you can literally just like hit the X button and then bring it back up, and then we're going to do SUCR D daemon. This is literally what the actual graphical interface is doing too, so it gives you an idea of what's going on. You can do everything that you can do in the graphical interface, but better. Now, let's see here. So now we have to go through the Sentinel installation. So back on the server, so we're going to go on the server, and then we're going to basically stay in this .sucr core on your actual local user right here. So we're going to basically do some Sentinel installation stuff. So we already did an apt-get update, so I'm not going to do that again. So we're just now going to install Python and the Python virtual environment. Ask you for your password. Done. Now, if you're not already there, navigate to your .sucr core file, which we are already in, so I'm not doing that. And remember, it's not root, it's the user's directory that you've got it running under. For me, I'm running it under me. You can create another user for SUCR core. You can create another user for a Masternode, whatever you want to do again. So now we're going to get the actual Sentinel and get it into here from Git. So that's done. So now we'll go into the directory itself. And now we're going to see if we can actually get this command to work, which it shouldn't. Oh, it actually did. How about that? It didn't one of the other times. That was weird. Okay, so now it actually did work, probably because, oh, this is, yeah, this guide might have changed. But anyway, before this command didn't work and you actually had to do this. But if this didn't work, you just do this. So there you go. We didn't have to do that. So now we have to install the dependencies. So all you got to do is just literally take this line, paste it into here, and let it do its thing. Okay, that's it. And now we're going to test that Sentinel is actually working. So let's see. Invalid Masternode status. That's fine. So now, let's see here. Let's make sure that everything is synced. SUCR, CLI, MN sync, status. So remember, you're going to see that, right? So invalid Masternode status cannot continue. We saw that. Great. Now we have to wait for its reindexing to happen. I'm staying in this directory, doesn't matter because you can do this from anywhere. So what you want to see is this. You want to see this happen. If you see anything other than basically this, something's wrong. And then you're going to have to ask for help. But if you're following my guide, I'm literally doing from scratch. So you should have the same exact experience as I am. So basically, once you see something like this, you're ready to go. So basically you see blah, 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 true, 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 false. Great, you're done. It hasn't failed. See, it's failed, false. Good, let's move on. So now what we're going to do is everything is working on the Masternode part. It's ready to be enabled. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back. This is now on my computer again, my personal computer. And if you locked your wallet, what you're going to do is you're going to put in the wallet passphrase on. So like if you encrypted your wallet, you're going to have to unencrypt your wallet right now. So unencrypt your wallet if you encrypted it. If not, just you can type in the actual command directly. SUCR, CLI, Masternode, start, alias. Now the actual alias is the one that you used in the file. For me, I put MN3. For you, it's whatever you put in the first thing in the file. You remember the masternode.conf file? The alias that you use is the same alias that you're going to do here. Enter. Boom! Alias MN3 results successful. Take a drink. Now, we have to go back to the server. So now we're going back to the server. We're back on the server right now. Let's go into Sentinel. It says cd Sentinel. No reason to do that because we're already in Sentinel. So we're going to take this command. Paste it in there. Let's see if it happens. Hopefully, this reports nothing back. 0, silence, nothing. And it's going. Great. That's it. Silence. Golden. We're moving on to the next part. Now, everything is already working. Your Masternode is up. The only thing you have to do is just make Sentinel run every minute. And that's all you got to do. Then you're done, except for installing the firewall, which we're doing a little bit. So, what we're going to do right now is go into the cron of our user. We're not going to go into the cron of root. We're going to the cron of the user that you made. So, in the user, right, I'm in user, myself, Aaron Schatz. I'm going to do cron tab E. And I'm going to choose Vim, because I like Vim. Vim Basic, or VI Improved. So now, we're going to basically do this. So you hit Insert, hit End, to get to the end, go to the next line. So how cron works is it's basically saying, okay, at certain intervals, please run this command. So it's minute, hour, day of the month, the actual month, and the day of the week. So I'm saying every time that this star matches, which basically says anything, so star is anything, do something. So the something that I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this command right here. So this is the actual command. So the command we're going to say is cd your home directory of the user .sucr core / sentinel. Now we're going to chain this together and saying we're going to run this command and we're going to pipe the errors back to the standard out, and then all of that is going to be put to sentinel.cron.log, or if you want to use that one, that's fine. So basically we're saying, so what this command is basically doing is saying, please go into the change directory to this sentinel directory in your home, in your user's home, that sucr core, and then run this command, pipe everything to a log file, and that's it. So we're going to hit escape, hit WQ, save it. That's it. You should be good to go. So if we actually do this, sucr CLI Masternode debug, boom, that's what you should see. It's not going to say successfully started Masternode, it's going to say Masternode successfully started, but you should get the drift. So that's it. So now what we're going to do is some cleanup stuff. So what I suggest doing is, sure, you can do a sudo apt update. What I suggest doing is, if you have any sort of knowledge about server Linux, stuff like that, you should change the SSH port. You should disable root logins and stuff like that. Again, you don't have to, but I honestly think you should at least install the firewall that it's saying to just protect the actual system. I also think you should do a sudo apt upgrade. Yes. Basically, I'm saying any old packages, I want you to update to new ones. Now, that's important for security as well. So make sure every once in a while you actually do update the packages. Now, there is a chance that the upgrades break something. It's unlikely because this is a long-term build, but just be mindful of that. So that's why some people say, I never upgrade, but I don't trust this. There's always security patches that you want. So let that go, and then we're going to install the actual firewall. This firewall is actually way easier than like IP tables used to be. My God, IP tables was terrible. So you're going to do these commands. Now, the commands are basically saying, okay, I want you to allow SSH, and if you're going to be like me, you're going to use a different port, but I'm just going to go through the motions with you for now. So we're basically going to say, I'm going to allow SSH, I'm going to limit SSH so nobody can just try to keep spamming the actual login. Then I'm going to say, I need to also allow the actual port that the master nodes use to communicate. Then we're going to turn logging on. Sure, you can keep the local installed version, that's fine. And then we're going to enable it, and then we're going to make sure it's running. So that's the actual commands in a nutshell. So I will go through them with you right now. Come on, let's go. Great. So that's done. So now we're going to do sudo apt install ufw. Boom. Did I already install that? Well, I already installed it apparently. So there you go. Now we're going to do sudo ufw allow ssh TCP. So basically I'm saying I want you to allow SSH, which is port 22, over TCP. Great. And now I'm going to say I'm going to limit SSH. Now I'm going to say I want you to allow 9336, which is SUCR's Masternode communication port. Then you want to say you want to enable some logging. Now here's where you if you did everything right, everything should still work. If you made a mistake right now, you are going to kill yourself on SSH. So just be mindful. if you don't have access to the server somehow else besides SSH, this is a very dangerous thing to do, to turn a firewall on without having other access besides SSH. So this should work because I didn't do anything to SSH ports yet. So if I enable this, it's going to say, holy crap, this might kill all existing SSH connections. Do you want to proceed? Yes. Boom. I can still actually do everything. So let's see the actual status. And there you go. Congratulations. You set up your SUCR Masternode. So some final thoughts. If we actually go, you want to see the actual, again, Masternode, I think it's status. Boom. See? Great. You can see that this is my page address. Again, this is all stuff that I showed you. You can see the actual smaller one. Successfully started. So you're good to go. This will be your payout address. This is the service that it's running on. So, hey everybody, so if you see this, I'm getting paid for the actual block that's getting mined. So there you go. Now, if you want to actually see, I'm going to show you another interesting command. So if you do masternode list, this is everybody that's on here. So if I do masternode list adder, and now you can see everybody's IP address as well. So that's what I'm saying, that everybody that's blocking out their IP addresses or their transaction IDs, it's really not necessary to do that. You can pull up a list and see everything there. So again, if we actually do a list, we can see all the statuses. So you can actually find yours, and you could make sure it says enabled. Now everybody that has Watchdog expired, it means that Sentinel is either not running or just it's not an error that you should be too concerned about unless it happens all the time. So most of the people you see is enabled, which is good. It means the network is strong. Oh, here's a new start required. So somebody didn't start their node. But you did. You followed the guide. So great job. And that's basically it. And some final thoughts. If you want to donate, I'm going to put addresses for SUCR. I'll put addresses for Bitcoin. I'll put an address for ETH and Litecoin. If you like the guide, you can throw me a little tip if you want. Post a comment. Love to hear from you. This is a brand new YouTube channel. I'm going to be putting out more content for not just SUCR, but for all the actual crypto coins that I'm working with. I have a mining rig. It's pretty cool stuff. So remember, please like, comment, subscribe. Really subscribe. This is going to be good, I'm telling you. And you should get in SUCR. If you see the charts, it's getting up there pretty quickly. So if you want to get in now. That's basically it. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you in the next one.